I didn't cry when my husband confessed. I think that frightened him more than tears would have. He stood in our kitchen, staring at the floor, explaining that it had been a mistake. A long mistake. One that had somehow lasted months. I listened, then I went upstairs. I woke my 3 children, packed clothes into whatever bags I could find, and told them we were going to Grandma and Grandpa's house. My oldest asked if we were coming back. I said, I don't know. That was the first honest answer I'd given all night. It was nearly midnight when I pulled into my parents' driveway. The porch light was on. I remember thinking, at least we're not alone. I carried the youngest in my arms. The other 2 stood behind me, sleepy and confused, each holding a small bag. My father opened the door. He looked at me. Then he looked at my children. His expression changed, not to concern, to calculation. He glanced over his shoulder, then back at me. Your mother is asleep. I know. There was a pause. I just need somewhere for the kids to sleep. He didn't answer. My oldest stepped closer to me. My father looked at him, then, slowly, he closed the door. I stood there for several seconds. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My youngest had his arms around my neck. I could hear the heating system running inside the house where I had grown up, the house where I had once been told that family meant nobody gets left behind. I knocked again. This time, my brother answered. He didn't open the door all the way. There isn't room, he said. I stared at him. You live here? Temporarily. I almost laughed, not because it was funny. Because apparently my entire family had suddenly discovered the importance of temporary arrangements. Then my sister called. My brother had apparently texted her. She didn't ask if the children were okay. She said, "You can't make decisions like this when you're emotional." I looked at my 3 children sitting in the back seat. He's been cheating on me. I know. But leaving in the middle of the night with 3 kids is impulsive. I didn't argue. I didn't tell her that staying would have been a decision too. I just hung up. I walked around to the trunk. There was one black garbage bag on the driveway. I had used it to carry the children's shoes. I picked it up, and I whispered 3 words. I'll manage myself. I didn't know if I believed them, but I drove away anyway. The first week was ugly. I rented a small furnished apartment with money I had saved for emergencies. Apparently, I had finally found the emergency. The children slept in one bedroom. I slept on a sofa that made my back hurt every morning. I cried once, in the bathroom, quickly. Then I washed my face and went back to the living room because my daughter was asking where her socks were. That became my life. Small problems, real problems, lunches, bills, school forms, lawyers, daycare, my husband's messages, my family's silence. I learned that rebuilding yourself doesn't feel powerful. Sometimes it feels like standing in a grocery store, calculating whether you can afford the brand of cereal your children like. Sometimes it feels like sitting in a lawyer's office while someone asks you questions about your marriage and realizing you have to explain the worst year of your life to a stranger. And sometimes it feels like your child asking, "Why doesn't Grandpa want us there?" I didn't have an answer, so I said the only thing I could. Sometimes grown-ups make choices they regret. Months passed. My husband started telling people I had abandoned the marriage. Then he started telling them I was unstable. I wasn't surprised. What surprised me was how quickly some people believed him. Until my attorney asked me to bring everything. Mons, bank statements, Mimons, anything that showed what had actually happened. I brought 2 folders, then 3. I had spent months feeling like the person who had ruined everything. But when the evidence was placed in front of someone who didn't know either of us, the story changed, not emotionally, factually. That was the first time I understood the difference. My husband could call me impulsive, my sister could call me dramatic, my father could close a door. But none of them could change the record. At the custody hearing, the judge reviewed the situation carefully. There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just questions. Where had the children been living? Who had been taking them to school? Who had arranged childcare? Who had been paying the bills? Who had maintained stability? I answered. My husband answered. The facts answered for us. When the temporary custody arrangement was issued, I sat quietly beside my attorney. I didn't smile. I didn't look at my husband, I just exhaled. For months, I had believed I needed someone to choose me. My husband, my parents, my siblings, someone, anyone. But that day, sitting in that courtroom, I realized I had already chosen. I had chosen my children, and eventually I had chosen myself. A few weeks later, my father called. I almost didn't answer. When I did, there was silence. Then he said, I handled that night badly. I closed my eyes. I had imagined this moment so many times. In some versions, I screamed. In others, I forgave him immediately. The real version was much quieter. I know, I said. Another silence. Your mother wants to see the kids. I looked across the room. My children were arguing over a television remote. Their laughter filled the apartment, the little apartment I had once considered a failure. The little apartment that had become ours. I'll think about it, I said. My father sighed. I hope you know you can come home. I almost corrected him. That wasn't home anymore, but I didn't say it. Some things don't need to be said to be understood. I hung up, then I stood in the doorway and watched my children. I remembered that night, the garbage bag, the closed door, the 3 words. I'll manage myself. I finally understood what they meant. They didn't mean I didn't need anyone. They meant I would never again confuse needing someone with being worthless without them. I had lost a husband. I had lost the version of my family I thought I knew. But I had gained something I hadn't known I was missing, a place inside myself that nobody could close the door on. And this time, I had the key.